Hello and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Ellie and today I'm joined by Katie and Chloe.
Hello!
Hi!
Coming up on this week's episode, we'll be discussing our favourite brands for community management, effective ways of managing your time as a social media manager, along with Instagram's new Take a Break feature. Stick around to the end of the show where we'll be answering some of your burning DMs. So, to kick off this episode, I thought we should discuss our favourite brands for community management on social media. So, community management is such an important aspect on social media to give brands a deeper understanding of their customers' needs and can help with brand loyalty. So, is there any brand that comes to mind for either of you when it comes to community management?
I mean, recently, I spend a lot of my time on TikTok, so a lot of my exposure is on TikTok at the moment. But recently, Tinder has been doing a really good job showing up in people's comments and that. Especially, I don't know if you guys saw the whole couch guy talk that was happening. Yeah. And that poor girl just fighting for her life in the comments. But every spin-off and a parody of that, Tinder was just immediately in the comments. And I don't know, they just show up a lot. In places you wouldn't expect, recipe videos. I'm like, why are you here?
I can just see the tagline, add a bit of spice to your life on a cooking video, I don't know.
Literally, or it'd be perfect date night, and I'm why are you here?
Yeah, I have to agree. I spend, what came to my mind was, mostly TikTok brands, None relatively specific, but TikTok was the first app that came to my mind because I think most brands are just doing an absolutely brilliant job at, as Katie said, just popping up on random videos on my For You page. One that I know most of us at Giraffe are pretty obsessed with is Duolingo. They're kind of the new Ryanair almost. Those two brands are probably some of my favorites on TikTok. Not only for the content that they put out, but they're also pretty interactive on TikTok too. Whether that's in their own comments or on other people's. So I'm a big fan of those ones.
Yeah, that's a really good option. I actually love Duolingo. Just in they're just absolutely acing it at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys saw the trend. I think it was on TikTok where they were see how many companies I can get to comment below. Yeah. And there was loads of them, and you just suddenly saw loads of the big names, especially the ones with the blue ticks, just commenting random stuff. And I thought that was also a really good I don't know whether that I guess that could kind of be community management because you're getting people to see your brand.
That's my favorite form of social media interaction is the posts where every social media manager from the big Fortune 500 companies or whatever just all jump in on the same post and interact with one another. It's really, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great to see. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel on Twitter, I don't know if they're still doing it, but I remember definitely a year or two ago, BBC Three and Channel 4 had mad beef for a while on their Twitter accounts, but it was just so fun to watch, and it'd be you get a BBC Three post and then Channel 4 pops up in their mentions, and it's
You know who actually does have a really, really amazing community management, and I was putting together a little training session for our team, and these guys constantly came up, and that's Wendy's.
Oh, Wendy's.
Wendy's on Twitter, everywhere, are just crazy good and funny with their community management, especially when it comes to really degrading the other fast food brands. So if you have time today, just Google Wendy's community management and have a look in the images. It's a good time.
Because I remember as well one of the YouTubers I watch, he made a big deal about Wendy's and being I love you, date me. And it became a whole thing. They invited him over for to their testing kitchen and stuff. And it was just I don't feel before social media there would be literally any chance of this sort of thing happening, which is why I think like community management is such like a beautiful, unique thing.
Totally.
The last one I was going to say is, I mean, moving away from TikTok just slightly. Sorry to upset you guys, but on Instagram, one of my favorite ones is Opoly, and I know that's very like generic or whatever, but they always seem to be like on it with liking comments, responding to comments, and they often do, I don't know whether they still do it now, but they often did like comment below with like something and tag your friend and your favorite emoji like to describe this dress or whatever, and then like to win a dress or win an outfit of your choice, and every single time I'd like get a reply from their community management people. I'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna win the dress, and then obviously I never did, but it makes you want to enter more because you think, oh, they're recognizing me, so like they're getting the engagement.
Yeah, they're really, really great. Like, some of the big fast fashion brands are really great at that, especially when it comes to, like, reactive posting and just, like, outreach in general. They're really good. So, usually when someone says, who's your favourite brand for community management, Misguided or Pretty Little Thing come to my mind. But I thought I'd switch it up today and throw in some other brands. But, yeah, you're so right. Like, they're really great at that type of thing.
So, moving into our main segment of this week's episode, we are going to be chatting about effective ways of managing your time as a social media manager. So, I'm sure that you both can relate when I say that it feels as though our job is never done. It doesn't matter what time of the day or day of the week that you're in, there's always something more to do. And obviously social media moves at an incredibly fast pace, so it can often be difficult to keep up. So for today's episode, Katie, Chloe and I are going to be talking you through effective ways of managing your time as a social media manager. So I think the most important thing firstly is to have a plan. Research has shown that workers can lose hours of productivity every day to interruptions and distractions. Therefore, proper planning will lead to improved productivity and efficiency. So coinciding that with taking the time to recognise what your top distractions are and trying to eliminate them as best as you can is really key. But one quick side note I thought I should probably mention is that I am aware that working within like social media, things can easily pop up throughout the day that are like unforeseen and you didn't plan in your schedule. However, having a rough plan in place can really help you with that. So do either of you have any effective tips or ways that you can help manage your time effectively?
I mean, I guess to roll off the two that you just mentioned there, and probably the two most obvious ones that people are kind of, you know, feel like they're flogging a dead horse every time they bring it up. But yeah, the first is, for me, massively, is to avoid multitasking. I can't send an email at the same time as I'm doing something else. Like, it just never works out for me. So one of the main things that I do, I'm a massive organization freak, is I like to break down my day sort of by task, I guess. So I don't know about you guys, but in the morning is when I personally am feeling the most creative and the most sort of recharged after a big night's sleep and a big breakfast. The creative juices are flowing. So typically in the morning I'll do any of that creative stuff. So I'll start working on any client schedules. Maybe I've got a giraffe TikTok that I need to post. Like, I'll film that in the morning. And then by the afternoon, just before I know I'm kind of, or not by the afternoon, but just before lunch, when I know I'm going to take a break, I'll, do my important emails, respond to emails, do that sort of the big bulky stuff, the admin stuff that we all hate, and then I'll take my big lunch break. And then by the afternoon, I'm typically, just like tying up any loose ends, preparing for tomorrow. I'm a huge list person, so we've got Asana obviously that we manually enter our tasks into, but I also love writing a physical list in my notebook as well. So that's, kind of what I do. Katie, I don't know, are you different?
No, I'm like totally the same. When on Friday afternoons, I set aside like at least 10 minutes of my time, and like I work out my exact plan for the next week, because I know when it gets to Monday morning I just like won't be able to do it, and I'll be like so overwhelmed. And like I enjoy Asana, like it like breaks it down daily for me, but like I literally just need it written down. Like, these are my schedules that are due, these are the ones I'm waiting for amends, otherwise I will just forget. And like the worst thing for me is to get into like a forgetful cycle because then like stuff falls behind and like it just all gets on top of me and it's a mess and it's horrible. So like I've just got like notes all over my desk of like, so like it's probably a lot less organized than you, Chloe. Like I feel like if you saw it, like you'd start like having like heart palpitations, but like it works for me.
Yeah. No, it's so true, because like sometimes, you know, you'll work on a client's schedule, you'll send it to them and you're like, cool, done, on to the next thing. And in that kind of process of, you know, checking things off the list, you forget that once you've sent the schedule, you also need to chase up the approval if it doesn't come back right away. So massively, like, yeah, having lists and reminding yourself of the things that you thought you didn't need to put on your to-do list because they were so obvious. Sometimes it helps to just put it on there, so it doesn't slip your mind in the craziness that is, you know, the day-to-day life.
Yeah, because like I break mine down into like, this is the schedules that are due, these are the ones that are like I'm waiting for approval and I can upload, and then like I've also got like another column of just like miscellaneous tasks.
Yeah.
So I have things like the podcast that I need to do, and like the TikTok that I film, and then like, you know, this week we're going into the office, so I've like added that onto there so I don't forget. And then it's like the action of like ticking stuff off, like it just makes you feel like I've achieved like a lot more in the week.
Yeah.
I was literally gonna say, it's so
gratifying.
I don't even know if like rewarding. When you see like your list has been ticked off, you're like, yes, I'm having a good day today. So I love that so much. I'm glad that we all work in that like similar mindset.
Like the immediate gratification of like taking stuff off. That's why we work in social media.
Yeah. So the other thing I was gonna say, like going off the back of like that you're unable to multitask, Chloe, is like I've recently realised that I really cannot multitask, especially when it comes to like this job as a social media manager. I really need to focus my time effectively, otherwise my brain gets really scrambled because it suddenly becomes really overwhelmed with everything, because I'm like got a tab up here and a tab up there, and it's like completely like polar opposite to each other, so obviously it's going to confuse you. So I've come up with like a few simple tips. I don't know whether you guys do this already. I may be late to the trend, but like closing your email when working has been something, especially when I'm working on one particular task that may take more of my time or more of my attention. I've often just quickly closed it. Otherwise, if I start seeing emails come through, my mind can quickly flick to that particular thing. And even setting busy or do not disturb on Microsoft Teams, again, is just another way to minimize distractions and unnecessary disturbing thoughts, I guess, in my head to distract me from my current task. So I don't know whether you guys do that.
Yeah, massively. When I'm doing big task, I close my emails. I don't usually put my Teams on Do Not Disturb, but what I do is behind my computer, you guys can't see obviously, but I have a big window, so we've got like a raised windowsill, and I'll grab my phone and I'll put it behind my computer and put it on silent so I can't see any notifications. If my phone's not in view, I don't have the urge to go, I might just scroll on TikTok for a few minutes, have a quick break. So yeah, I'm the same. I just like to eliminate any distractions.
Yeah. So like, I mean, not to flex, but like I am kind of good at multitasking. But that's just the way my brain's wired. Like I do just have a tendency to jump from like task to task, and like doesn't really impact my work. I know I'm like very lucky with that.
I'm jealous. I'm very jealous.
No, you shouldn't be, because like generally I have it under control, but like I do have like all of my notifications turned off on my phone like at all times, other than like messenger apps, because like I don't know, my mum might want to message me. But like it's something that like I did like back at uni, and like it's something I've just like kept up with, is like I don't have, I mean maybe this is a cardinal sin for someone who works in social media, but I have no social media notifications turned on, because I feel like if I see those, I get sucked in and then I get brought down a rabbit hole. And it's something that I did like probably about a year or two ago, and like honestly my life has significantly improved. Because like if I'm going on there, it's because like I'm going on there for entertainment or for work. It's not because like, oh, I'm being sucked in by just a little notification, and then like next thing you know, you've been scrolling for like 3 hours and you haven't done anything.
Totally.
feel like that's quite clever, actually. Maybe that's something that I need to make a mental note of or a physical note of in a minute.
No, I recommend it, honestly. It's like the closest you can go to like get to like going off the grid.
I mean, the last thing I was going to say is also like exiting like from all my browser tabs, because I can often find it's really easy to like accumulate far too many tabs like throughout the day. So then often, like, if I go onto my computer and I see them all up there, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so unorganized. So I just think like simple things like reducing that like visually as well will help you mentally to try and manage it all.
What I have started doing, I don't know if this is just a me thing or there are people out there that do this. I hate having tabs open. It stresses me out. And so what I've started doing is I have like multiple windows open, like browsers open for each sort of task that I'm working on. So I have one Google Chrome window open, and that's got all my like Canva documents, like any like scheduling stuff I'm working on. Then I have another one that has Asana and maybe some admin-y stuff open, and then I'll have another one that has, I don't know, if I'm doing some research for the podcast or something, I'll have that open on a separate tab. So I still collectively have like 100 tabs open, but visually it's more pleasing because I have them over 3 windows. So depending on what window I'm on, there's only sort of like 5 tabs open, and it puts my mind at ease a little bit.
Can I interest you in a Google Chrome extension that may change your life?
Please.
They don't know I know this hack. So, it's called One Tab.
Okay.
This is more like an organizational tip, you know, a bonus double episode. So, what it does is you have it like installed on your Chrome, and you press the little button, and it turns all of your tabs into like a list.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to have them all open, but it basically takes it into like another browser or like another tab, and it just has like your ones, and you can organize them into like groups, and then you can press the button and load them all up in one go.
That is amazing.
I know, right? It saved my life when I was doing like research at uni, because like if I'd lost any of those tabs, I would have just like cried. And your laptop will thank you for it too, because it means you don't have like quite as many things open in the background.
Yeah, oh, that's a good shout. I will definitely be searching that up, and I'm sure the listeners will too after this episode. And
it's the best. It looks kind of ugly, but it works.
One more sort of time management tip that I've popped in that I'm not sure if many people, like, it's not kind of the go-to, like, this is what I do to save time, but that's invest time in education. So at Giraffe, we dedicate like 2 hours a week to independent learning each week. And I think when you spend time sort of learning a new skill, while you're taking up time in that moment, it's going to save you so much time in the future. So, for example, I've just got Creative Cloud on my work computer, so I'm using Photoshop, and I've kind of used it in different times throughout my life, but I've never become an expert. I wouldn't even say I'm an intermediate Photoshop user because I use it so infrequently. But yeah, what I'm doing at the moment is on a Friday, like I dedicate an hour, I'm doing a little Photoshop graphic design course, and I'm hoping that, you know, spending time each week learning this in a dedicated course, I'm going to spend less time when I'm on Photoshop in that moment quickly YouTubing a tutorial on how to do this tiny little edit that I'm trying to figure out, because I'll know it because I've invested that time. So I think that's kind of a really smart one, especially if you're a social media manager or a marketer, because there are so many different skills that we need to be able to do just in our day-to-day life that, you know, not everyone has or has learnt in uni or has picked up in another job. So definitely invest some time each week or each month learning a new skill and kind of developing that skill set.
Yeah.
I think that's so good to like raise awareness of, because like you're investing in yourself and also in your future self to alleviate any sort of stress. So yeah, definitely such a good point.
And like kind of bouncing off of like the content side of things, like it is very easy to spend like hours more than you need to, like getting sucked into content. I know I'm guilty of it. I know Chloe's guilty of it. So, but like, I think it's kind of a case of like kind of knowing where to like pause or stop what you're doing, and then maybe when you come back, like you kind of have like a clearer head on like how you want to do it. Because like if you've got an idea in your head and you can't like translate that onto the content you're trying to make, it can suck you in for like so long. Whereas like, you know, taking a minute and like going on to the next bit and then coming back to that can kind of say, it may feel like you're just like gonna waste further time in the future, but actually it's saving you time, because going back to it with a fresh set of eyes, you can be like, oh, I just had to do that.
Massively, yeah. Sometimes I'll, you know, in the afternoon, because I like to do my creative work in the morning, but sometimes I leave it to the afternoon and I just can't get the thoughts and the brain power out, and I'll revisit it the next morning and go, oh, why was I having so much trouble with that? Or like, what was I thinking designing that? And then, yeah, sometimes just coming back at it with a fresh mind and a fresh perspective really helps. But I guess if we can squeeze in one final tip, and this is one that definitely like every social media manager should know, it's batch your content. Like,
yes.
it helps you so much. You know, each client that I have, I like to kind of create, I don't know, 5 to 10 different post designs, I guess, whether that's, you know, for Facebook or for Instagram or for Twitter. And then that helps me create my post quickly, because I've got, you know, 10 to 15 ready-made templates to choose from. But if I do want to freshen up their designs or do something different, I've kind of got that baseline that I can work off, because, you know, all their brand colors are there. All their, you know, the designs that I know they love is there. And then, you know, if I do want to branch off and try something different, I'm not starting with a blank slate, so to speak. I've got some elements there that I can take inspiration from, and then, you know, work on something new. So that's definitely a massive one.
No,
I think that's something that I need to start doing. I feel like I'm learning from you guys in this podcast, so hopefully the learners are too. The listeners are too.
We're learners now.
Yeah.
We're all learners.
Honestly. But there you have it. There are a few examples of effective ways of managing your time effectively. But please do remember, within the world of social media, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed with everything that's going on around you. So that's why it's important to remain disciplined and also focus on the things that matter. So now it's time to dive into the top social media news story of the week. So Instagram is testing a new user wellbeing option called Take a Break, which will enable users to set reminders to take some time away from the app after a certain period of activity. So currently the options are 10, 20 or 30 minutes. The new option enables you to select a time period for a reminder to take a break from the app, which will then also suggest alternative activities which you can do during this break. So the idea of this new feature is to help support their users with their well-being. So therefore, giving people ways to manage their time in a way that's meaningful and intentional is a great place to start with this new wellbeing focus. So what do you both think of this new feature, and do either of you think that you will use it?
I mean, I definitely will like use it. Whether or not I actually listen to it when it tells me to stop is another story. I will go into it with the best intentions. But then I also feel like with the little tips they'll be like to be like, here's alternative things you can do. It might just activate a part of my brain that's like, don't tell me what to do, you're a machine, you can't do that. But like, I love the idea of it, especially for like young users of Instagram, because we all know that like spending too much time on social media when you're young is not a good thing. I don't want to sound like an old person, but it's true. I feel like just having like these extra features just added in, it's not going to do any harm.
I mean, I think it's a great trend actually to see social media platforms transitioning into the well-being side of their platforms, and understanding how it can potentially have slightly harmful effects on people, and how that sometimes you do need to take a little break away. So I think it's a good step in the right direction. But I agree, I don't know whether I will actually adhere to it when they tell me that I need to take a break, even though I have obviously set myself that. But I don't know what you think about it all, Chloe.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Instagram has already introduced this. Like, we've done this before, and I'm guessing it wasn't very successful and they've taken it away. But whether it was, you know, a year ago or whatever, maybe it was when I was in Australia and it was purely an Australian feature that hadn't yet been rolled out worldwide. I've seen this. I implemented it. And the annoying thing is, like, I had the best intentions. I was like, yeah, I definitely spend too much time on Instagram. I don't, let's set this thing for once I've reached an hour throughout the day. Like, maybe I spend 5 minutes in the morning and then half an hour. Like, once you've reached an hour on the platform, it will tell you, okay, you're done. Like, you're done, as that TikTok sound would say. And, you can either listen to it, or there's a feature to be like, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'm going to carry on. So, like, I don't know. From experience, like, I don't think I'll use this again, just purely because I don't have the willpower to, like, listen. Like, Instagram's not my mum. She can't tell me what to do. But yeah, I do think it's interesting, and I think this is part of a wider discussion that that massive social media documentary on Netflix kind of sparked recently. It's like, these big social media platforms are, like, a massive part of the reason that a lot of, the younger generations experience depression and anxiety and all this. And they know that, the creators behind that know that. Like, I think they did interviews and they were like, yeah, like, we don't use social media because it sucks, but we're the big founders behind these corporations. So, like, yeah, cute. Thanks for the feature that tells me to stop using social media. But there's just so much more that you can do. Like, why don't we prohibit people from quite literally warping their bodies and posting to social media and have a permanent impact on how, young boys and girls view themselves, as opposed to, suggesting I go and listen to my favourite song.
This is the thing. I just feel like,
or take a few deep breaths. Sorry, is one of the suggestions that
one
Instagram
of them should be like, just straighten up your spine.
Oh, stop it! I feel like it's one of these things where they're not introducing anything new, like you're saying, Chloe. Like, they're not bringing anything new to the table, and, like, as users, I feel like we're all aware of what we should be doing instead of being on Instagram and, like, scrolling aimlessly. But it's just like, I don't know, it just seems a bit odd to me. And how, the stupid things about take a few deep breaths. Well, I can easily take a few deep breaths if I want to do that, in my own free time without a random app telling me to do that.
The thing is, like, I mean, I don't want to dunk on Instagram, and I could be wrong because these are just my own personal uses. But does anyone actually spend, like, an hour session on Instagram at a time? Like, is it that like relevant still that people are spending hour sessions scrolling through Instagram?
Yeah, not anymore.
No.
I'm doing that on TikTok these days, but
And it all comes full circle.
Yeah. I mean, this is bad for Instagram. They're telling us to stop using their app so we can go and use another one, but that's a different conversation. Yeah, I definitely used to spend, and I think absolutely young people would be spending, up to an hour, if not more, on the app. So, yeah, it's a cute idea, and, like, I'm not going to tell them not to do it, because I think it is good. Like, some people will listen to this and they will go and do something on their to-do list, or write down what they're thinking on Facebook.
I'm so obsessed with this list. I love it.
This list, I would have been on board if I hadn't seen this list that they recommend you do instead of scrolling on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, it's nice.
Yeah. I like the thought behind it, but I think in actual practice, it's just
maybe
kind of
not their demographic.
I mean, surely we are, though, as, like, social media experts. We're the ones who are on it probably more so than most, I would like to think, but
maybe
I
the
don't know.
damage is already done with us. We can't be saved now.
We've been converted to TikTok, so sorry Instagram, not for you.
Love you still.
Yeah. Today's direct message reads, I am being completely overwhelmed with my workload. Do you have any tips to manage stress and workload? I'm interested to hear how you both deal with stress and a large workload, which we inevitably experience at Giraffe with all of our deadlines and clients and tasks to do. So I don't know whether you guys have got any actionable tips that we haven't already said, or speak about what we've already said.
I mean, my main big one is that, like, and this may sound, like, obvious and a little bit annoying, because I hate hearing this advice as well, But like if you're looking after yourself and like your actual needs, like feeling overwhelmed by work is like, it's instead of it being like all the way up here, it's like all the way down here. Like if you're if you know that like you're keeping yourself well fed, well hydrated, like you're looking after your like whatever like a little self-care things you do, like if you're keeping on top of them and doing your best in that, then like it kind of takes away like the outside stress, which makes like you feel a lot less overwhelmed by work stress, if that makes sense.
I think that's such a good point. Yeah, like your own mental and physical well-being also will correspond to like your workplace mindset. I feel like I am one who needs to practice this more, but like taking a step back. One of you said earlier about how, you know, if you're stuck on something, like take a step back from it, or I don't know, move on to the next point. Whereas I often like keep at it because that's just like I'm very stuck in my way of like I need to get this sorted. But I think going for a walk or like taking some fresh air is also really important, because no one, I don't care what anyone says, no one can sit at a desk for a whole day and not take a break from the screen, because your mind isn't going to have that like breather and a new kind of lease of life for the creativity that we need as social media managers.
Yeah, exactly. And like I found like sometimes when I'm having like a really like overwhelming day, and it's just one of those days where like nothing feels like it's going right, like so like if I just go for like a walk around the block, like it doesn't have to be anything longer than like 5-10 minutes, but it's just like just getting out of like the flat, that especially like working from home as well, like you're kind of living where you work. So just like to like get out of like the 1-bedroom flat you live in and just go for like a little brisk walk for a bit and then come back, and like everything feels a lot better all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just like a bit of a breather, and some fresh air always does you good, I'm sure. How about you, Chloe? Have you got any good extra tips you can offer?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like a big Aussie mindset, I feel, but something that I always say to people, and I'm sure it's really unhelpful for them to hear, but it's work to live, don't live to work.
Oh,
so
100%.
I come in at 9:30, I do what I need to do, I leave at 5:30, take that paycheck at the end of the month, I book a holiday, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like it's not that deep. You know, you shouldn't be like spending your whole life stressing over what's going on at work, like, because you're not living your life. So that, you know, just saying that to someone is probably really unhelpful. So here's an actionable tip. But you know, at Giraffe, you know, we work with a team of like 15 to 20 people. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, surely there is someone on your team that has a spare minute, that has the time, that is more than happy to help you with whatever's stressing you out, or whatever you know you don't have time to do that day. So make sure you're reaching out to people. Like there is in no world where if I reached out to Ellie tomorrow and I said, Ellie, I'm struggling, I've got a deadline, I'm not going to meet it, that Ellie is going to say, well, you're on your own. Like, I'm too busy, I'm really sorry. Like, at least at Giraffe, that's just not the culture. So definitely reach out to people, whether that's, you know, one of your peers or one of your colleagues, even, you know, your managers higher up. Like, let them know that you're feeling overwhelmed. If the overwhelming feelings and the workload continue over, you know, a few weeks, a month, reach out again. Let them know that, like, you know, it's too much and that maybe you need to move some of that work away. Like, there is no situation where something can't be done and that you're going to be feeling this way forever. So definitely, you know, along with taking walks to clear your head, as we said, sometimes you come back a few hours or the next day and you feel stupid for feeling so stressed or stuck. But if you're still feeling that way, just ask someone for a hand. Like,
and
I feel like
and even like if they don't have time to like help you with the task or like something like that, sometimes even just venting can make you feel a lot better. Like, it might not like reduce your workload, but it can actually sometimes put like a lot of things in perspective and be like, actually, I can do this is fine, and the other person can reassure you that it's fine, and it's just like having that like human interaction instead of just like you staring at Canva for like 3 hours because you can't work out what font to use.
Yeah, well, that's why I love to-do lists, like, as well as venting. A to-do list is maybe I don't know, more practical way, but we build things up in our head so much. Like, I absolutely have a tendency to just really like over catastrophize things, and I've said this in all my little development meetings and appraisals. Like, I definitely, you know, Monday morning I have a look at everything I need to do, and I'm like, there's just no way. Yeah. And then, you know, I either write a to-do list, I really spell it out for myself, and I'm going, well, actually, no, like, that might be a long list, but the tasks themselves are quite small. Or, you know, at the end of a Monday afternoon, I go to my boyfriend and I'm like, I can't do it, it's too much. But then after I've had that conversation, I'm like, oh, I feel a bit silly now, because there's actually not much for me to have, you know, and not to say that people don't have a huge workload and maybe it's just me who over catastrophizes. But yeah, even if you do and you vent, you instantly feel better. Like, that's all that internal pressure is kind of released. And then you can focus on getting it done as opposed to worrying about getting it done.
Exactly. And, like, you can't really rush, like, how you feel about things. Like, if you're going to feel that way, you're going to feel that way till, like, the end of, like, that emotion being in you. So, like, if you are feeling stressed and that, like, you can make actions to do it. But if that feeling doesn't go away straight away, it will eventually. It's just like you can't get stressed about feeling stressed, because then that's just going to double up the problem and it's not going to resolve itself any quicker.
I also feel like there's no shame, like you were saying, Chloe, like there's no shame in asking for help.
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes if I am feeling stressed or I've suddenly got loads of things that have come up at once, I don't want to like admit to having a lot, so I'll just all take on. I'll be like, I'm good, I'm all fine, like in your high pitched voice, like I'm all good. But I think speaking to those around you, speaking to your team, they're all there to help. They're working with you, not against you, and I think that's a really important thing to highlight. And also, like, a really good tip, if you are feeling overwhelmed, is really pinpoint what in particular is making you feel overwhelmed and tackle that head on, because then hopefully everything else will kind of shatter around you, so that won't be as big of a problem, and then it will just hopefully
100%.
alleviate a bit of stress. That was our top DM for this week. Hopefully we answered all your burning questions. If you'd like to be featured in next week's episode, then make sure you slide into our DMs on Instagram at GiraffeSM. Well, that's all we've got time for today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or follow us if you're listening on Spotify. We'd love to hear what you thought about today's episode, so make sure you reach out on social media and let us know what you thought. We've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We'll see you next time.